Welcome to the Access to Success podcast, Project Shine series. I'm your host, Saeed Al-Basha, and with me is author and coach Mike Diamond. This is episode 9 of season 2, and today we talk about motivation. But this isn't one of those rah-rah motivational episodes. We've got a little twist on motivation that's really going to help you guys on your journey. We've discovered that we are all motivated, but we may be directing that motivation towards the wrong things. So today we start out by asking some simple but powerful self-reflective questions. We learn about the benefits of focusing our intentions in the right direction and how we can take control of where we apply our motivation so that we can help keep it going long-term, not just short bursts of energy. This was a really powerful episode, and it really got me thinking differently about motivation and what it is and how I'm applying it in my own life. So you guys enjoy, and don't forget to share the show if you enjoyed it. We're good, my man. Hey, we're here.
We are.
Welcome to another edition. Today, we're going to be talking about motivation and aspects of it that are useful when you apply it towards the right things.
Exactly.
So when we talk about motivation here, I think the misconception is we associate motivation with only positive action.
Correct.
Prior to hitting the record button here, we got pretty deep on this subject. So let's rewind back to the beginning and fill everybody in on this.
Okay.
What is motivation to you, and how do you apply it in your daily habits?
All right. So first of all, everyone gets up and says, I'm lacking motivation.
Yeah.
You're not lacking motivation. Let's take a completely different look on this. Let's have some fun with it.
All right.
So we have pleasure and we have pain. Mm-hmm. We all want pleasure. Right? We live in a world which is all pleasure sensory, right? Quick fix. I want pleasure. I want to avoid pain. Mm-hmm. So when people scream at people and say, you're lazy, you're this, you're that, you lack motivation. Hold on. Person's laying in bed. They don't want to get up. They're motivated to stay in bed because it's really comfortable and it's really pleasurable.
Yeah.
Right? They're not motivated to maybe get up and go for a run, but there's still a motivation. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
They're motivated towards the pleasure of the warm bed. That's all it is. So there's still motivation there. It's where we place our focus. Okay? So if I don't know what I want and then I get angry, like, why are you angry? Why? Just things aren't working out. Okay, what things? Well, I don't feel like I have motivation. Okay, in what area? Well, I'm overweight. Okay, why are you overweight? What are you doing? You know what I mean? Is it because you're motivated to eat sugar and certain things, and you're motivated to sit on the couch? Because that's motivation, right?
Sure.
I'm motivated to watch TV every day because I want to feel good watching TV.
Because there's a sense of pleasure that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There is a pleasure. But is the pleasure right this second going to give me pleasure in the long run?
That's a great question. That is the game changer, because where am I applying my motivation?
Right.
So what you're saying is, if I'm laying in bed and it's comfortable, and last night I told myself that I'm going to get out of bed and work out today, but here it is, the alarm just went off. Now it's raining outside, it's cold, I'm comfortable, the bed's warm. My motivation for staying in bed and soaking up this comfort is greater than my motivation for taking action and going to work out.
Excellent. My motivation to avoid pain.
Yeah.
So if people go to this, you need all this therapy, you need all this. Everyone's different. You can need all the therapy in the world. You can not need the therapy. But here we have to look at it. If you associate pain and pleasure to different things, then you can direct your motivation. So I wake up, and for years, I associated pleasure with cocaine and alcohol. So when I felt pain, I went to something like cocaine, which gives you a really good hit.
That dopamine.
It smashes the dopamine
Yeah.
and you feel, right? So in the instant, I was trying to avoid pain and gain quick pleasure. Now, in the long run, that's why it doesn't matter my environment. It doesn't matter what people are telling me. I have to physically feel, like they say, you have that spiritual bang where it goes, wow, this is not giving me the pleasure anymore. There's more pain. So there was more pain attached to using cocaine. So what did I do? In that moment, I was done. Now, I had to substitute the cocaine use. So what I do? I said, I'm just going to be sober. And I'm going to do things that make me feel good in sobriety. So I didn't go out and overeat. I didn't do all these other things. I then said, I'm going to exercise. 'Cause I always exercise, but I'm really going to exercise intensely because I felt more pleasure going for a run, and then long-term, more pleasure. There wasn't the pain. So in that instance, people say change doesn't have an instant. Well, it did. I was like, I'm done. It was all about association.
That's an interesting philosophy because association is everything in this case. What you associate with motivation is where you're going to put your intention.
Absolutely.
And if you associate your motivation with comfort and the avoidance of pain, then you're going to stay in bed, to use the same analogy, right? You're going to stay in bed. You're not going to get out. You're not going to, physically that it hurts a little bit to go to the gym, lift those weights. You get a little bit sore and, it's going to be cold outside. A lot of uncomfortable feelings go through your body when you're getting up early and you're doing all this activity. But if you associate the pleasure of the after workout, because I think that's what helps me is like when I get out of bed, I've said this before and I still maintain I'm not a morning person. I don't enjoy getting out of bed early, but I really enjoy that feeling after that workout. And the only time I can fit that workout is at 6 a.m. So it's either I'm going to go through minor discomfort for 5 minutes while I get dressed and get out of bed for a daytime of pleasure, or I'm going to stay in bed and have this temporary pleasure for a daytime of regret.
Right. Now, if you're a person that deep down just lays in bed and you feel okay about that, it's your business. But if you have certain desires and your desires are, say, happiness, well, what's happiness to you? Right? Everyone's happiness is different. Fulfillment, money, and all these things. So when people say, oh, that person's motivated by money. Well, are they really motivated by money? What do you mean? That they get up and they want to make a certain money because they want to live a certain lifestyle. It's their choice. Money's not the problem. It's never the problem. It's not the guns are not the problem. It's the person that's holding the gun with the motivation.
Right. And the intention.
Do you see what I mean? So it's like, it's not the guy driving the car. It's not the car, it's the guy driving the car. So it's like, it's always what the key to the motivation is anything. If you look at someone, right? Me, for example, I'm not telling anyone what to do, but me. I ask my good friend Dara, who I respect dearly, what's the one thing that I should do with my wife when we have the baby? She said, make sure your wife gets plenty of rest and gets time to sleep. Now, that triggers me to now go from like, I used to get up around 6:30, which is still early, down to 5:30, down to 4. My motivation is I don't want to be my father. Because that's not pleasurable to me. There's a lot of pain that motivates me. So that's green. So I'm like, I don't want to be my father. I've spent more time with my son in 18 months than my dad spent with me for 18 years.
Wow.
Because that's a good motivation. That gets my ass out of bed. Now, if someone else doesn't have that motivation or that drive or that association, they may choose not to let my wife, she can do whatever she wants. But because I asked a really good question to someone I trust who's really, really on point and lives a life that I'm like, I want how did you do that?
Yeah.
She plants that seed. What do I do? Then my whole association, there's no way in the world I would have thought of that.
Right, because you had nothing to base it on. This is your first son, your first pregnancy, your first, experience with this. And so you had to revert to outside sources and ask the right question. But let's dig into that a little bit, because I think questions are extremely important here. If we're going to ask ourselves the right question in order to develop the right motivation so that we could take the right action, the step one is going back to that question. What is the question that we should ask ourselves? Is it, what is my intention? Is it, what good can come out of this? Like, how do we develop these questions?
Well, I think it always has to come back to what we want and why. It's like, if I want to achieve something, if I really want to be like authentic and on point, if I can sit with myself and kill all excuses and be responsible, because everyone blames their motivation on people, places, and things. Okay, this person threw me off, and this thing threw me off, and these things were happening. So if I take full responsibility and say, forget it, forget the environment, forget people, forget what they're saying, I'm going to take responsibility. And I want to do something, whatever it is. I want to make a certain amount of money. Why? Because at the end of it, I'm doing it to avoid pain and gain pleasure. Right? But at the root of it, if I'm doing it, so I go, I want to make $1 billion. Okay, make it. Why? Well, it'll make me happy. No, it won't.
No, it won't.
That's why all these people that win the lottery blow the money.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So it's the value is wrong, because I know that I can say that where I have not, well, I don't like to use the word failure, but where I didn't get the results that I really desired, is because my motivation was wrong. I was motivated by the wrong things. Right?
Yeah.
I was motivated in areas that I thought I was going to get long-term pleasure, but I didn't. I got long-term pain because of the choices I made, because my motivation at the start, I didn't ask those questions. Why am I doing this? And I was around people that were huge rock stars and huge actors, and they were doing just as much cocaine as me, drinking their lives to death. And I was like, holy shit, you're filling a stadium. And you're unhappy. And then it made me look at myself and go, ask some questions like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I doing this? My motivation is wrong.
Yeah, that 3-letter question is so powerful. Why?
Always.
Because you're right. If I make $1 million, I'm going to be happy is such a misguided way to start your goals. Because you can look, making $1 million is not a bad thing. Right? Make $1 million, go ahead. It's not a bad thing. And if all you want to do with that money is put it in the bank and save it for a rainy day, that means you're doing it for a good intention. You want the comfort of not having to worry about finances. That's fantastic. But if you think that $1 million will make you happy, then that's the misguided part of it, is saying like the money itself doesn't make you happy.
Well, it can't, because just what is it? It's a piece of fucking paper.
Right.
Once if we go to another country and they barter their time, and you've got a bunch of rocks in your hand, is it worth more to have skill and be able to, say the currency was wiped out, so there was no money, and you don't have any skill to do anything because you haven't done any work on that stuff, and you're only focusing on like generating, like, what about all those people that made their motivation was to have a lot of money in the .coms and all that? It was all on paper, right? But then when that whole bubble burst, what happened?
Yeah. Gone.
What about the motivation? I mean, you understand this. And when the Big Short, people's motivation was to have these huge houses because it was going to somehow make them feel better.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Lost it all.
They lost it all, and they're left with what? Themselves. At the end of the day, I'm left with me.
Yeah.
You're left with you. So whether you make $1 or $1 billion. It's the association. It's why do I want to do this? And if we look at what's motivating us to make choices, good and bad, then we have to look at the patterns. Okay, there is certain choices we make, and it's not because someone's smarter or dumber. But if I wake up in the morning and I have really negative, resentful, disempowering, if I'm motivated by those kinds of thoughts, I am living in survival mode. If I'm living in survival mode, I'm living in my sympathetic nervous system. If I'm living in my sympathetic nervous system, I'm not in rest and digest. If I'm not in rest and digest, I'm going to have some issues. My colitis is a bowel disease in my stomach. Can I control it? Of course I do, because I control how I think, right? My motivation, what's deep down. But if I'm resentful, if I'm angry, and I'm pumping these toxic thoughts through my body, I'm going to get sick. So if I look then at thoughts, and then I look at food, and then I look at how I'm moving my body, right? And if I go, I'm not moving my body, I'm not exercising, right? So people say, oh, it's so hard to lose weight. It actually isn't if you associate different things. If I associate eating really bad food as that's poison, and I substitute and look at good food as like bringing me pleasure, I'm going to be in shape.
You'd be all right.
You know, I get pleasure out of exercising for hours.
Yeah.
Now, here's a funny thing. Talking about motivation. A friend of mine hit me up the other day who I got sober, crushing it now. Absolutely crushing it. And he goes to me, dude, do you remember when I would get in at 5 a.m? I said, of course, I was one of those guys. But back then, my motivation, what was driving me was different. Now, was it getting me the pleasure I desired in the end? No. So I changed it.
That's so powerful, because the why and the desired result should steer our actions, and which will help us direct our motivation towards the right things. Right. If my goal is to lose weight, and I know that I need to wake up early to be at the gym so that that can drive me towards that goal, now my motivation is focused on that positive activity. So when I wake up and I hear that alarm, I'm not thinking, geez, another day, another, shitty feeling inside, and another regretful day because I skipped the gym. It's like, no, I have this amazing clarity to focus on the right things and take the right action. So the why is super powerful in this case, and then associating that with the right intention and action. Yeah,
because what's the driving engine? Like they say, when someone does something, what was their motive?
Yeah. When you look at that from a crime perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing they look at is, what's the motive?
Right. What's the motivation?
Why would this person, or if the person it's a murder, somebody dies, what's the motive for somebody to kill this person?
So when people say they're not motivated, no, they're motivated. But where are they placing their attention and focus? Is it empowering or disempowering? Now, forget anyone's like, let's not get like, oh, you should do this, you do that. Fuck that, right? There's certain rules for a reason.
Right.
Okay? This is not Game of Thrones like we're talking about.
Yeah.
I can't just go and burn the city.
Right. Spoiler alert.
Right? But you see what I'm saying? So it's like, if I personally want to do something, and I can go back to the drive, because it doesn't matter who you are. And that's why, if we look at some basic things here, it's like everything you need is inside you. Everything. Every resource. Did we talk about Emil Zepepek? Zepepek?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
Think we might have mentioned
it. Maybe we didn't, but motivation, right? Emil Zepepek. So here's a guy. I don't know. We didn't.
I don't think we did.
We've talked about him personally.
Let's
Emil
jump into
Zepepek, right, he's never run a marathon, and he's in a I think he's Polish or wherever he is. He's Russian or Polish, and he starts training. Wasn't a good runner when he grew up. Just kind of stumbled through, and he's like starts running. So he doesn't have anything around him. So he puts towels in his bathtub with water because it's too cold outside, starts running in the bathtub because he's motivated to go to the Olympics. He has no resources. Then he straps on army boots and pretty much maps out around where he's living in the concrete, in the snow, and starts running like that. So he has to, there's a race that's 220 miles from where he's living. And he has to qualify in this race to make the Olympics. So he gets on a bike and pedals through the night 220 miles, which is like going from Glendora to Vegas, runs in the 10,000 meters and wins.
After that bike ride.
After a bike ride. This is like 1957. Then he goes to run in the Olympics, they laugh at him. So in this one Olympics, he wins the 5,000 and 10,000. There's a guy that trains in his bathtub, and he beats the British world champion, all these guys that have these high-tech shoes and training exercises. This guy does not give a fuck, but he has the desire to win, right? The motivation, the energy, his motive, no excuses, resources. So then he goes in the marathon, and they laugh at him. They're like, this guy's, how do you run 10,000 into a marathon? He's never run a marathon. He takes off, he starts running, he's up against the British champion. He looks at the British champion, and he says to the British champion, are we running fast enough? The British champion said, no. The British champion's trying to trick him. So he takes off, running's faster. The British champion can't catch him. He goes, this guy's got to slow down eventually. No, this guy trains in his boots in the snow. This guy trains in his bathtub with no excuses. He's going to win, and he wins. And he breaks the fucking world record. Later, they interview the British champion, and they say to him, what happened? He goes, dude, I tried to trick him. I couldn't catch him. The British champion got a cramp and didn't finish the race.
Wow.
Now, that's what's driving him, his desire to be the greatest runner in the world. He broke 18 world records.
Wow.
He's one of the greatest runners in history. And he trained in his goddamn bathtub.
Yeah.
That's where you connect. That's where your association is so amazing. It's freezing cold outside. And you associate such pleasure with winning the gold medal and breaking world record that you have no resources, that you stand in your bathtub. It's 1957 and you're like, I'm going to run on the spot. And in my mind, visualize myself breaking a world record. That's how you're training.
There's no stopping you.
That's next level.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of shit I read when I'm feeling off. I'm not feeling, I'm feeling like, I need a quick little pleasure fix. So how do I delay that pleasure? I've got to read something like this. Or I've got to read the guy that has no hands and feet and runs on stubs and, breaks a world record or wins a marathon. I'm like, this is my motivation. This is going to drive me because I know if I can get going, I'm going to get the running done. I'm going to feel better.
There's something that happens to us mentally that kind of puts things in perspective. And if we see somebody who has less capabilities than we do or has more problems than we do and they're doing it, it almost guilts us into thinking like, what's my excuse?
I mean, for me, some people get pissed.
Well, that's their problem.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people are like, look, at anything we do, if you want to achieve some kind of goal, you can't always be moving away, in the sense of you can't always look at what needs to change in the environment. These people need to change. It's my wife. It's the boss. It's the neighbor. It's the neighbor's dog. It's my house. It's the car. It's the weather. Like, there's so many goddamn excuses we can use to then go, well, I feel awful. So I need to get some pleasure into me. I need a quick fix. That we've seen over time that if we think a certain way, take in certain toxins, and act a certain way, it's just not. It doesn't look good. So if I go out and do a bunch of meth, try to attack people, I'm not going to get a really. I'm going to end up in a pretty bad place.
Right. Cause and effect.
I become a meth addict, coke addict. Look, if I stayed on the path of cocaine drinking, I'd be dead. It's not even a question. I'd be dead right now because a lot of my friends are dead. It's pretty. So what's my motivation? Well, I don't want to. I'm going to die, but I don't want to die that death.
Sure.
That was my motivation. So it's not like I ever have to. People can drink around me all day. My wife can drink. She doesn't bother me. I don't associate drinking and cocaine with pleasure.
Right. You've completely disconnected that.
It's a different
wire.
I have a different thing. Now to me, drinking and cocaine, for me, is not pleasurable. So I'm just not motivated in that way.
Yeah.
Where before I was motivated to take that course.
What are some tips we can share with the listeners that they can take home and start applying them to their current situation?
Okay, the first thing I always look at is anything we're doing, if there's discomfort or you're disturbed, any kind of discomfort or any kind of disturbance, if you just stop, and I always go back to the stop method, stop, breathe, get yourself clear, and then observe. What's the disturbance? Why am I frustrated? Why am I angry? Why am I resentful? Why am I envious? Why am I jealous? Whatever that disempowering emotion is, you've got to get a hold of it before it starts to have the ripple effect. Now, if I can then, so first of all, if I'm disturbed, I'm going to stop and then I'm go, okay, what's the disturbance? Now I'm going to have to take responsibility. I want to kill every excuse. So forget people, place, and things. Forget the environment. Forget the people. Forget their tone of voice. Forget everything. Forget my upbringing. Sit in the moment and say, okay, right this second, I'm going to take responsibility that I'm in control of these emotional states. And then, so we're stopping, we're breathing, we're observing, we're taking responsibility. The third thing I do is I say, okay, right this second, what am I associating pleasure and pain to?
Yeah.
Okay. What's painful? It comes from somewhere.
Sure.
But it's all perception. And then if I can associate and disassociate and mix them up, then I have a chance to proceed, take action, right, and change my course.
That's brilliant.
Because that's true emotional intelligence. To take responsibility of my emotions in the moment. And if I'm not getting the results I desire, change my approach.
That's it, man. Time to get out and do something.
I hope we're motivating people in the right direction.
That's the key, man. Yeah, love it, man.
All right,
brother.
Awesome. You're the man.
All right, you guys, make sure you check out the show notes for the links on some of the things that we talked about. Also, for ways to connect with us and share your own success journey. So that's it for today. I love you all, and I'll see you next time on the Access to Success podcast, Project Shine.